Happy Wednesday, my friends. There we are. We meet again. Yay. Hello. Happy Wednesday. I don't know. There's something about seeing you all just arrive here. That is the absolute best feeling every single time. Oh, hi friends. Oh, I love seeing familiar faces. So many of you coming back every week. Wow. I mean, I talk about our community. I talk about it all the time because I've lived in it and felt it and breathed it and loved you for over a decade. And I mean, that's a quarter of my life. It's a really big deal to be here having this time with all of you. Oh, no sound. Someone says no sound. Can everybody hear me okay? Let me know if you're hearing me. Okay, I think we're good. I'm just going to drop in for a moment. I'm reading all of your sweet words. Today's a funny day. Yesterday, I was really fired up about talking about troubled skin and skin woes with all of you. And equally terrified to do so. I was having a moment. I was having a moment that I haven't had in a while. I was sick last week and over the weekend was at the height of an acute flare-up of all the things. I had breakouts going around my chin and jawline. I had a great pimple just directly in between my eyes. My perioral dermatitis was all flared up. I had a bunch of random breakouts along this area. It was all over the place in a way that it's not bad. Even at its worst, it was not bad. I know that, I understand that very clearly. I'm someone who 20 years ago, my entire body was covered head to toe in a burning, itching rash that looked like I walked through a radioactive spider web. I know that my skin today is amazing. It's healthy, it's wonderful, it's mine, it feels good most days. Most days. And what happened this week was while I was having what is a totally normal breakout, my period was a week late, I was sick, I was reacting to blowing my nose in tissue. There's a huge amount of heavy shit going on in the world for all of us. Acutely, directly, indirectly, we're all affected by so much. That's happening. Weather changes are happening. Dietary changes are happening. There's influences inside of and around us all the time, in our relationships, in our skin, in our products, in our air, in our environment, in our body posturing, how we're spending our focus, what we're doing when we scrunch up our faces, what we're doing with ourselves in these bodies all day long, every day, surrounded by whatever we're surrounded by, filled with whatever we're filled with. It's all showing up in our skin. And yesterday I was inside of my head thinking about all the stories that I've told myself about myself that aren't true. And I talked about this a little bit, I think, in maybe it was the Happy Galaxy Live about bodies, where there's an identity that happens with what we, well, there's just identity around these things. So I grew up thinking that I was not athletic. In fact, I described myself as a sloth. It was a self-deprecating form of humor. I think sloths are adorable. If I'm going to identify with an animal, I thought that seemed pretty apt. But it was also a way of continuing to keep myself in this identity as someone who is kind of lazy and kind of slow and does my own thing. And so I had convinced myself that I was not athletic. I had also had that reinforced by really awful gym teachers in elementary school and other kids, and just the way that kids are when they're kids and they're learning and they're hurting people as they're being hurt. And I, over the years, developed this idea that I wasn't athletic. And so my whole life, I just said this over and over, I'm not athletic, and I'd make fun of it, and that was fine. And I have these genetics that kept me just being kind of the way that I am. And so I didn't have to really do much about it. And it wasn't until my early 30s where I started doing a little bit of yoga at the prompting of my sister-in-law that I started moving. And even then it was a little bit like, well, I guess I should, but I'm not athletic. And somewhere in there, I became athletic. I showed up every day and I did the things, and that made my body stronger. And as my body got stronger, I got more excited to show up. It became less hellish and more delightful. And the practice of being in my body went from, like if you go and you wash your you shampoo your hair as often as you do. You can go and you can just do it, and you get it done, and then you're done. You could also find an itch on your back and you go to scratch it. And oh, it's just the most delicious, amazing thing ever, right? Both of those things happen. Both of them can just be instinctual, but you can really, really feel it. So at some point in my physicality, I moved into not just the I'm doing the yoga, but like I'm feeling it. I'm loving it. It feels like getting that itch. And when that happened, my identity changed because I'd found love, I'd found connection, I'd found this source of pleasure with actually being with myself. This person who prior to that, I'd mostly just left my body and lived in the clouds. So with skin, I had a whole lifetime where I identified as a sensitive person, as a reactive person, as a redness prone, flushing prone, irritation prone. I have a family's history of psoriasis and dermatitis and eczema. That's where I come from as a formulator. It's been my demographics from the very, very beginning, and my own personal history. That tied me in so solidly to feeling like that's who I am and who I will always be, especially because some of those conditions are technically chronic, hereditary, things that will come and go throughout my lifetime. I've been told that. I also know that my skin today is a lifetime away from where it was a decade ago. And it's truly a lifetime away from where it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I would walk into a grocery store, and if I had my skin showing, children in line at the checkout would ask their mothers what was wrong with me, and they would look at me like I was a monster. Going out in public was painful and scary and really vulnerable. And being at home was just as much so. I couldn't touch my own skin. I couldn't do self-massage that I show you today. I couldn't and didn't want to find pleasure in this body and in this skin that I thought was ugly, that was painful to live in. So yesterday I was really fired up about talking about that. Today I woke up and I felt a little scared. I felt a little unprepared to talk about skin, partially because I still struggle with mine, and that's not true. I struggle with how I feel about my skin. What I know is that my skin is healthy and it is doing its job. And that's true if I'm in the middle of a big breakout, flare up, all signals on. And it's true if my skin is glowing and even and looks perfectly smooth. In both of those cases, my skin is healthy and doing its job. Yesterday I was driving after seeing a new friend, the friend that, if you watched my stories yesterday when I said what we would be talking about here today, I almost didn't go meet this friend. I had 2 video calls before I went to meet her, both of which I also wanted to cancel, wanted to filter, wanted to, find some way to not be visible on. Can I call into this instead of video into this? So I really ran into my own self-consciousness there. And then I was supposed to meet a friend in a garden for a beautiful walk in the flowers. And I was so ashamed to acknowledge that I felt ashamed to meet her. I am a skin person. We met on the internet. She's only seen the highlight reel of my world. It's this one that you see. And I was nervous to see her in person and to not meet expectation. And I know if any of you said that to me, if my daughter, if my son someday says that to me, if my mother, if my neighbor, if my friend says to me, I was scared to show up with you because I was feeling sad and scared in my skin, well, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. And so I went. and I was late to both of my meetings, and I was late to meet the friend, and we had planned on having this beautiful picnic and showing up all beautiful. And what was wonderful is I had this intention to show up in a certain way, looking a certain way, bringing all the right things. She also had that intention, and what happened was we both arrived and we just were human. And I felt like I looked like a mess. I felt like a mess. She felt the same about herself. And you know what we got to do? We got to fall in love with each other. Each other. And not this thing that we presented ourselves as. And so we got to have a real conversation. And after a couple of minutes of explaining ourselves and apologizing for ourselves and then realizing how absurd that was, we sat down in a park and we told ourselves stories. We told each other stories about our lives as little girls. And so I got to spend a couple hours with a perfect stranger, looking eye to eye at each other's skin, at each other's hearts, as who we really are. And it was such a gift. It was such a gift because I wanted to hide from that day. And all the day did was show me all the things that I believe with the very core of my being. And then on the drive home from meeting that friend, I looked up and I saw a billboard with a woman's photo on it wearing a doctor uniform and the words, "Treat your 11s." I mentioned this to my husband this morning. We took a walk, and the framing of the words is what stuck in my head, and I didn't plan to talk about that today. I didn't plan to talk about that messaging specifically, but I'm going to, because here we are and I can talk about whatever I want. And you're with me, so you can be in or not. But I feel like this is all related, and I don't want to talk about skin stuff or how to, fix the blemish on your face or fix the wrinkle on your eye, or, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the products that I use and that I made that will help my skin. This is what I come from, this is what I know, and this is what I've shared with thousands and thousands of people now. I will do that. I will give you tips, don't worry. But I want to talk about why it's a little bit hard for me to do so. in the way. It's why I want to be careful about how I do so, is what it is. I actually feel very, very passionately about talking about this, but because I'm in my own challenge with it, I feel not eloquent with the words, but I feel very strong about the feeling. So what happened was I saw this treat the 11s sign with this woman in the doctor costume and the number, and I'll just say first, one, I want you to celebrate your skin in all the ways that feel good to you. That's a huge fact. I will just say that first. And if that means Botox and fillers, if that means hair dye, if that means makeup, if that means wearing the fabulous art outfit and all of the glitter and all of the sparkles, you do you. What scares me a little bit is the word choice. Treat your 11s was what it said, and I went, what's wrong with the 11s? It felt like treat was used in a way where it's medical now, where it's medical. And it's not medical. It can be medical. There's some medical benefits to Botox and fillers and all of the things There's lots of reasons to do it. Aesthetic is a perfectly good reason and a great one for many people. And so not the issue with that, but I was thinking about, can we say what it is? Can we say, I was scared to show up with my face with the wrinkle, and I would like to treat the 11s. And we were talking about the word treat. I use the word treat all the time. I want to treat my skin with love and affection. I want to give my skin a treat. In fact, I think the word product is kind of annoying to say. So I end up saying treat, skin treats. And so I probably overuse the word treat because I want it to be joyous. I want it to be a treat. And if you've got 11s, or if you're like me and you don't have an 11, you just got one right down the middle, I want you to know that you can treat that. You can treat that with an injection that'll flatten it out. You'll look all fresh and vibrant. Wonderful. Do that. You can treat that with your hands going into that line and opening everything up. Will it make that wrinkle go away? Probably not. Will it soften it? Maybe. Will it soften how you feel about it? I don't know. It does for me. It does for me. I went on a tangent there. I know that I did. I just want to introduce the thoughtfulness around how we're treating ourselves and the words that we're choosing as we go into this. When I shared that we were going to talk about what hurts in our skin today, the amount of messages that came in less than 24 hours was the most so far. And what was exciting to me and heartbreaking to me and beautiful to me was the kinds of questions that came in. Because there was a practical. All of you are coming to me from so many different places. You're coming from severe acne that won't go away. You're coming from congestion you've battled for years. You're coming to me with psoriasis that flares up, month after month, or cyclical for decades. You're coming to me with challenges during menopause, with sweating and showing up in public. You're coming to me with redness that makes you want to hide. You're coming to me with physical pain and you can't touch your skin, and I remember. You're coming to me from all of these places, and then you're also coming to me with all of the shame and all of the sadness, feeling like you've failed your skin. Ooh. Comment just caught my eye. I teach kindergarten, and as honest as one little one was, she said, "What are those things on your forehead? Those lines, go look at them." I remember that this is a child. my kids have started asking me that too. And sometimes when I'm not watching the position of my face, and if I'm feeling serious about the world, which of course, I'll find myself in this expression too, especially if I'm doing this. And I can get stuck there, and sometimes I'm just being thoughtful and thinking about something. But that resting position, we're taught that's resting bitch face. There's a name for that. We're taught that that's, us looking hard or cold. I notice it in my family and my loving home with my darling husband and my sweetheart children when I am in my face in scrunchie and the lines are most prominent. They ask me what's wrong. They ask me if I'm tired. They ask me, why I'm talking like that or why I'm making that face. Or my husband will be telling me a story and I'll just have the face that I have. And sometimes it's misinterpreted now because I'm getting older and my face makes different expressions unless I try not to. And I've spent decades shaping my face to look a certain way, even at rest. So I read your comments and I think about all these things because I want to give you practical tools. And I also want you to know that if you had a face that broke out every day for the rest of your life, that is just how some people's skin is. I am only going to get older from here. I guarantee it. I'm not getting younger. I'm only getting older from here. I will only have more lines and wrinkles from here, is probably true. That scares me. It does. I'm in public. I'm a public-facing person. I'm a skin professional. I want my skin to look deliriously lovely all the time. I want to be a shining example of everything that I talk about all the time. But the most true thing I can ever be an example of is my humanness. And human me struggles with skin sometimes. And human me, even when my skin is perfect, still struggles with the idea of my skin and what it means to age, what it means to look a certain way, all of the things. So even when I've solved it, it's not solved. Even when I'm fed, I don't fear not being hungry. I'm going to go into your questions. I'm in the middle of a cystic acne breakout. I haven't had one in years. I'm so sad and I feel like I failed myself. Well, one, you haven't had a cystic acne breakout in years? Okay, so this is back to the identity thing. I talk to so many clients who, especially if they had acne when they were younger, or anything acute when they were younger. For me, I still just imagine myself covered in rashes, even though I haven't been covered in rashes in more than 10 years. I still think of myself as the person who is. And so this comment, so many comments like this, especially I talk to a lot of women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they will so often still speak from, well, when I was younger, I struggled with acne, and so I avoid oil, and I don't do this, and I don't do this, or I'm doing all these things now, but I'm so scared because I used to have acne. If they're even using the words used to, but very often it's, I'm acne prone, I'm acne prone, I'm acne prone. And I'll ask them the last time they actually had an acne breakout was, and it might have been months or years or even decades, but the idea is still there that it's gonna come back. And I think that was the emotional thing that was happening for me this week, was even though there was just little things going on in my skin that really weren't a big deal in any kind of way at all, what happened in my mind was, well, shit. If this can happen, if this little thing can come back, or, there's one today, but maybe there'll be 2 tomorrow, or 20 the day after that, or this little rash, I know what happens when it takes over. Well, now it's a little bit here. What if it goes all the way up? What if it takes over my body again? What if it all falls down? And then I can really spin out and go, what would that say about me and my business and the whole thing that I've made? And it can go really big. So I know what that means. If you have a flare-up of something that you used to have and you mostly don't have it now, that doesn't feel good. But let's think about what your skin is doing. It's an organ. It's organing. And so the fear of the return doesn't have to take over. That's mental chatter. It's just... So I come back to who's in charge of this conversation. And there's a choice. So I have spent most of my life in my head. It's all up here. It's all talking. It's all chatty. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm problem solving. I'm looking back at everything I ate, everything that I was exposed to, everything that I touched. All of this stuff is just in my head. It's chattering along with the judgment and the shame and the, I can't believe you did that. And was it because you didn't wash your face? Or did you actually overstimulate it? Or did you do this? Or did you do this? And it all spins around in there. And here's what I do almost always is the problem solver. So, oh man, it's just so hard to go into talking about products, but I have to because you asked about, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to rewind a little bit. I want to see if there's anything here. I think it's hard for me to talk practical when I'm stuck in the sad, and I think that's where I am today. So I apologize if I'm a little all over the place. What I want is to be sitting in a room with all of you here with me. I want to be able to see you and look at you. Because part of it is we get all of these questions, and the ones that are really specific. The ones that are really specific, I either want to go deep into with you personally, over email, or we can go into novels where you can send photos of yourself, where we can really do that. That's care@Lindstrom.com. You have a specific question and something, especially if you're willing to be open with us and tell us your story and tell us about yourself and tell us the products that you've been using, not just ours, everything you've been using, all of the other pieces that are going on. And what do you want to feel like? Because sometimes it's just a paring back, and sometimes it's just an understanding that this is just going to move through. People ask how I was taking care of my skin when it flared up at its, worst. It's really just the worst it's been in months, not the worst it's been ever. It was just a period. And nothing was really happening. So what happened over the weekend? Those things, they will cycle through. All I did was the problem solver every other day to bring down the inflammation, bring down the acute breakouts that were coming to a head, and it also helped to soothe and ease the dermatitis reaction that was happening around my nose and mouth. That's it. It's not immediate. It helps a lot. By the next morning, it had calmed some things had come more to a head, not everything. So there's a balance that comes from it. Problem solver every other day. Every single time using the Blue Cocoon Youth, do the Jasmine Garden with it, adjusting those ratios. But I want to talk about them more. I will go into the specific questions now, and I will talk about each of these. Thank you for staying with me as I wander in my rant. I'm struggling with this stuff. I'm going to spend a lot more time here with you when I organize my thoughts. I hope. I don't know, maybe we'll do it on Zoom so I can see you. I just feel like it would be more true. Cystic Acne Breakout, use the problem solver. Lindstrom.com, explore skin rituals tabs. There's 10 different step-by-step rituals in there that are a beautiful starting point for you to adapt from. If you want to go deeper, email us, but use that starting point as a jumping off point. There's tips in there for everything in all categories of questions that were asked. That's a really wonderful place to start. But especially this first comment, if you haven't had a cystic acne outbreak in years, treat it with the problem solver, give it some rest, send us an email to care@Lindstrom.com. We'll help you walk through how to calm it down in this acute state. But babe, You haven't had one in years. Your skin is doing a wonderful job. Say thank you. Take yourself on a date. Give yourself a little love. You're doing a wonderful job. How to prevent recurring sebaceous filaments near the nose crease and other areas of the face. I see the filaments even with regular loose use of the Problem Solver and the Clean Dirt. What am I missing? Well, one, those filaments, they contain natural moisturizers that your skin needs. So if you're seeing those show up, you might need them. The instinct is to pick at them and to empty them out and clear them, but often that's just breaking them up, irritating them further, inflaming the exterior skin or opening it up, and then the bacteria can move around to different areas of your skin. So I know it's tempting to pick at them. You can have them removed by a professional if you have a great person to go to. Otherwise, leave them alone if you can. If you know that you're going to pick at them, because I know that people do, wash your hands really well first, cleanse your skin first, and then go in with clean hands. Be as gentle and minimal as you can. I will already say don't pick, but you will. And so be clean about it, be conscious about it, and follow it up with the Problem Solver. Follow it up with the Problem Solver. Anytime that you've picked at anything, it can help to bring it all down. It'll give you some calm and some time there. Also, buy yourself time. If you're at your desk or you're somewhere where you're picking at yourself, you just can't help it, get in there with the Jasmine Garden. Just keep it at your desk. It's a way to keep your hands off your face and to break that instinct to pick. Also, I would say if you're having recurring in that area and you're using the Problem Solver and the Clean Dirt regularly, I would also make sure that you're on top of hydration. So often when we're breaking out, especially in those areas that tend to be a little oily or tend to be a little clogged, we think that we are being really oily and really clogged, and so we reduce the good fats and oils coming into our skin, and then you get even more. And so it's important, yes, do the Clean Dirt. That keeps everything all cleared out. It keeps the dead skin cells from accumulating, keeps it all moving. Wonderful, fantastic. Problem Solver, same thing, keeps reducing the inflammation, the redness, the heat, all of that builds up. So great, alternating those two. I like to do the Problem Solver in the evenings. If you're in an acute flare-up of, again, just about anything, and I do recommend the Problem Solver for everything from acne to sensitivity to redness, and we'll go into that in these different sections. But in general, I do that in the evenings. For maintenance, it's once or twice a week during the evenings. If you're in an acute flare-up, you can go up to every other day. Every second or third day would be preferred for most people. Also, if the balance between the power and the moisture, you can find that in the honey mud. The honey mud also has salicylic acid, which is really, really effective for getting into the actual pore lining of a clogged pore or any of these sebaceous filaments. Oily skin and constant stubborn acne, same thing. There's a ritual for oily and acne skin at Lindstrom.com in the Explore Skin Rituals tab. There's recommended products as well as tips there. Consistency is the biggest thing. It's the biggest thing. The Problem Solver is amazing. It's a hero product. Reach for it once a month, fantastic. But if you use it twice a week, you won't have a problem to solve. So find the ways to take those powerhouse things that you reach for when you've hit the wall and put them in. It's your daily bread. This has to be a part of your regular cycle to really get into a rhythm and a flow. And actually, that's an interesting point too. So when the cycle of a breakout is different for every person depending on the state of your skin and all of the other things that are going on inside and around you. So for me, if I am aware of what's going on in my skin, like this last time, full flare up to the end. I'm at the end now. I'll get close. You can see my skin. So what you can see, I'm sweating, and I missed it with the Jasmine Garden. This is the least flattering light of all time, but you can see I've got still an active clogged pore right here. that still had a little bit of fluid in it this morning. And so that was irritating. And the instinct is to pick at this one because it's still kind of coming to a head. It hasn't left yet. Versus around my lips, these had been more open over the weekend, and now they have faded into just discoloration and little healing over. It's healing over. And so how I would treat this and how I would treat this are totally different. And then what's happening in the redness around my nose, also different. And the clogged pore that happened right in the center, slightly different. Under the chin is also where it was breaking out, and this just got clogged up and jumbled up. So when this first came on, the immediate thing for me to do is the problem solver. I do it over the entire face, neck, and décolleté. When I do that, what will happen is anything that's already in the process of starting to come to a head, depending where it is in that process, it will go one of two ways. If it's early enough, it can often just reverse, turn around. You can have a little tiny clogged pore that, left to its own devices, might turn into a pimple. You use the problem solver, it can bring it down overnight. Very often minimizing it or reducing it, stopping it in its tracks completely. Especially if you're in a regular rhythm of treating this and it just won't go anywhere further. However, if it's a little bit further along, it might help it to bring it to a head. So if it's starting to come out and it's starting to move through, it might bring it to the head. So it can either amplify it and move it through, or it will start to tame it back down and bring it back down. So to begin, I will always do that because either way, it's a good thing. It's going to either move it out, or it's going to chill it out. But following that, so the next day, then you see what else is happening. So for me, the next day, some things got better, some things got worse. And the things that became more acute, that were coming more to a head, well, I did not take my own advice. I spent a couple days picking at things, which again, I don't normally do, but I was stressing. I was stressing about all the things and having this self-talk battle with myself. And so I was very picky at myself with my skin. And so I got in there and I messed it up a little bit more. And so in those areas, I went back and I did the problem solver again to help calm that down. The areas that were starting to cycle through and be just fine on their own, I let be. This area around the lips, after the first round of the problem solver, it helped it to dry out some of the parts that were coming to a head. And so it increased that healing right away. It also took down a lot of the bumpiness and redness that was around the nose area. That's the perioral dermatitis that I get. So if you are prone to that, lots of people asked about that and using the problem solver for that. I love it for PD. I will also say that PD is very personal and responds in all kinds of different ways for different people as well. And I tend to take one of two approaches. And it's helpful to experiment with which one works for you. And one is to go more dry, and that is what I was taught all of my early years and tried in all of the ways and did not work for me. But what did work for me was feeding in more of the moisture, doing more treatments, using more herbs, having more like pack healing kinds of treatments. So as this started to heal, now that this is almost gone, this stage where there's just the color left over and this kind of skin texturing, it's not quite ready for the clean dirt. But the clean dirt is what will make this part go away. So the problem solver will help me get to this place of healing. It takes you from these acute spots in any of the rashy, bumpy, funny, itchy, just ick stuff that comes through the skin, calms it all down. This space in between, I've been loving the honey mud because it brings in both the hydration and the good fatty acids and all of the good stuff in there, but also that natural salicylic acid from our wintergreen, which works to get inside of the pore lining itself. and keeps everything from drying out. So honey mud is fantastic for that. So this area around the nose and mouth, it was fine for me to do that. Some people don't do as well with the honey mud during a perioral dermatitis flare-up. So just notice that, pay attention to that, see which one works for you. Usually I find that there's a choice. So if I have something that still needs to move through, is coming to a head, like here, I wouldn't put the clean dirt on this. And so I wouldn't do the clean dirt today, period, today. Tomorrow or the next day, the clean dirt will take all these spots away. So I'm waiting. The problem solver I can do right on top of this, and I could do today and tomorrow, and it would be great. My T-zone is oily and has blackheads, but my cheeks and forehead are dry and feel a bit rough. So what I would say is the honey mud as your daily cleanser will help a lot with keeping the moisture in there while also helping to balance out that oiliness, especially with the T-zone. It will help to soften the blackheads. And then with the forehead feeling dry and rough, oh, I really just want to get you in a solid rotation of the problem solver and the clean dirt. That will help immensely. Plus, that dry skin, it can't absorb any of your moisturizers, and it's stopping you from producing your own oils correctly. So you're overproducing oils because nothing is absorbing because you have all this dry and rough skin in front. So once you handle the dry and rough skin that's in front, then your own oils will work better, and you'll also be able to get better use out of any oils that you apply topically. Skin is flaring up with pimples on temples and jawline. Problem solver, consistent. You can do this as a spot treatment, just basically painting on a beard if you want to. But I prefer that you do a full face mask, bring it down the neck and chest. This really focuses the blood flow on that area and helps so much. How do you deal with blemishes when you have to be around others? Conceal was the question. Well, I stopped wearing makeup in 2020. And so now when I do go to reach for makeup, I realize that it has all since expired. And what could be passed on to my kids has been passed on to my kids. And I don't own a concealer at the moment. And for years, I used RMS Uncover Up, just here, just on the insides of my nose. I have thin skin there, and the structure of my nose makes that area particularly red all the time, along with my propensity towards redness just in general in those areas. And so for years and years and years, I wore that. And I stopped a few years ago, and the redness is still there, the very specific redness, but it doesn't matter to me anymore. And also I found that when I was concealing it, it was redder. And part of it, I don't think it was the product necessarily, but I don't think that it helped me. And it didn't help me to be putting my hands and things and on all over my face. And keeping makeup on my skin also meant I was less likely to refresh during the day. I was less likely to, reapply anything. People talk about reapplying sunscreen, and I go, how are they doing this? How are people reapplying sunscreen when they're wearing makeup, when they're sweating, when they have all this stuff on their skin already? Anyway, that's a different conversation, but for me, having my skin be kept clear as often as I can without makeup as much as I can was helpful for the physical healing of my skin. Having it be clear allowed access in a greater way, but it was also good for my mind to get used to seeing myself uncovered. I'd worn makeup for so many years. When I was much younger, I wore a lot of makeup, and for the last decade or so, I've worn very little, but for most of those years, I wore some, at least some, to cover up, the human parts. And so, yeah, how do I deal with blemishes when I have to be around others? Well, if it's like this week, I freak the fuck out so much that I spin myself into all kinds of circles, and then I have conversations with you about it. So usually there's a lot of self-talk going on is what happens, and depending on the day, it can be a little cranky or it can be a lot of love. And I'm trying to focus on filling my plate with the parts that I really want first. And so that comes with a lot of loving self-talk. And more than self-talk, a lot of loving self-action. Going back to, am I treating? Am I treating? How am I treating? But really, I mean, I understand I would weigh it if I got invited to be on the Oprah show tomorrow. I'm probably going to show up with some makeup on, and I'm going to feel good about that choice. But showing up for the lunch in a garden yesterday with a new friend that I wanted to meet as me, with no one watching and no pictures around, I was really proud of myself for showing up with a bare face. I was really proud of myself for that. I didn't want to. It was uncomfortable. But I know that because I didn't wear makeup yesterday, that my skin is healthier today. And I know that if I don't wear makeup today, and if I keep my hair back, and keep my hands off my skin unless I've cleansed and I'm doing it on purpose, that my skin will feel better tomorrow. And I know in a few days, this little momentary thing that's moving through my skin will be gone. But I know if I went on the Oprah show tomorrow and I wore a boatload of makeup for cameras, that my skin would be fighting with me for weeks afterwards. That's my personal experience. And it's largely why I keep my skin clear now. It's just not worth it to me. The after effects aren't worth it to me. So do I get dolled up every once in a while? Yeah. Yeah, I think I put on makeup on Valentine's Day and put on a red dress. And it was fun, and I wanted to be fun, and I wanted to feel good. And if I've got some like honk and zit somewhere on some day where I want to show up and feel radiant in my skin, well, then yes, I will cover up and I will do that too. Why? Because it feels good. But what I want is to be able to let my skin be the organ that it is. And what I want is to be able to look at my skin with love and myself with love and know that that's beautiful. Because if you walked into a room and I saw the same on you, I would look at you and know you are beautiful. So I'm holding myself there too. Mask wearing and hormones, I believe, are causing repetitive cystic acne. Yes. Oh, the masks are so hard. The masks are so hard. There's so much moisture under there. It's difficult. You're breathing, you're respirating. That's the whole idea, is to keep the things inside, but it's keeping the things inside. And so there's sweat and there's humidity and there's moisture and there's build up and it's itchy, and I get it. It's hard. I use the Jasmine Garden before I put it on, let it dry. So also, don't wear makeup under here. If you have to wear a mask for any reason when you're going out, if it's your work day or a social event or whatever it is, or your job. I have so many of you are doctors and nurses and people who work in medical care, and so for many of us, the masks are forever. And so if that's true for you, if you can keep the makeup off the bottom half of your face, you will notice a massive improvement, and it might take time. But give yourself that time if you can, at least under the mask, keep your skin clear. That will also allow you on your breaks, if you're able to take your mask off, if you can rinse your skin with clean water, do a refresh with the Jasmine Garden, maybe a little of the Youth Dew. The Youth Dew is really, really wonderful for maskne breakouts. But also just a regular, consistent rhythm. The problem solver every 2 or 3 days, just forever. I've been doing it twice a week for 15 years. So it's really important. The consistency is huge. But for masks, yeah, it's the problem solver. It's the jasmine garden. The jasmine garden during the day. And then being in a regular, consistent, loving ritual with yourself, daily care, especially if that's your everyday. If you know that it's just because you're going out somewhere that's requiring it once this week, it's a little bit like makeup for the Oprah show. So do what you got to do, get through your moment, and then there's treatments to follow. So you can always follow up if you have a breakout to follow wearing a mask. The odd stubborn spots that won't come to a head but won't leave. Yes, that too. Consistency forever. Just consistency forever. The combination of the cleaner and the problem solver, rotating those out AM and PM. Leave a space of days in between if you're sensitive. That's huge. Spots, never got them as a teenager, but now in my 20s, my face is covered in them. I would love to hear from you directly. So many reasons for that if they're showing up. So many reasons, and it's never just product, it's just not. So email us, care@Lindstrom.com. I want to go deeper. Breakout still at 50, so sensitive and takes so long to heal. Ooh, ouch, I hear you, I'm sorry. The problem solver for you too. If you're sensitive, if you're dry, maturing the skin, the combination of the problem solver and the honey mud together, mixed together, are really beautiful. If you can check out the deep dive lives on both the problem solver and the honey mud, there's lots of blending tips and beautiful rituals within there that I would encourage you to look at. Also, the blue cocoon, sensitive and long healing times, they just go together. Soft hands, soft treatments, soft touch. Email us. Persistently clogged pores. Problem solver, clean dirt. Okay, texturing, scarring, red bumps on cheeks. All of this, rashy neck, anxiety. Yeah. Coming back, I mean, I know it looks silly, but when you are getting a flare-up like this, this rashy neck, anxiety comment, when you get that heat, when you feel that coming on, when you're feeling, and it can come from a physical thing, you could be having a reaction to a food that you just ate. It could be something internal. It could be you just walked through the mall and got sprayed by perfume and you're having a contact dermatitis reaction. It could be that you're sitting at your desk and you just had an email exchange that makes your skin crawl. Whatever the thing is, whatever you're reaching for, when you feel this show up in your skin and your body, pause and reset. Just pause and reset. The jasmine garden brings the physical elements that will help to calm and soothe with the colloidal silver, the rose cellular water, these really beautiful oils that feed and nurture. So beautiful for you. But just as much, and I can feel it in my skin right now, I can feel the cool. I can feel my own areas of heat that just exist naturally in my body because I'm a living human being. I can feel them soften and cool. It's very powerful. Lots of these are similar. Definitely everybody on this call and in the replay, go to those Explore Skin Rituals pages. Whether your questions about acne, aging, dermatitis, congestion, sensitivity, oiliness, we cover it all there a lot. Oh, this was on my sheet. Thank you, Dove. Chin hairs, postmenopausal, and it's a constant challenge. To me, they look like blackheads, so I begin to try to clear them or pluck them too soon, then create bigger problems. Help me stop. 1, Dove, my love, you're a mammal. Those hairs, they're normal. We all have them. So one, it's okay to just leave it there the same way it's okay to just leave your line there if you want to, or your pimple there if you want to. It's also okay to pluck it out or flatten it or make it go away, whatever you want to do. I also get them. I get one hair right here and one hair right here and one hair right here. They show up in the same spots over and over and over. So I pluck them out and I get exactly what you're talking about. You get the little red area, sometimes a little congestion, a little something. So again, the problem solver, I will just say on repeat the whole time if I'm going to talk about solutions here. The problem solver is huge. I know you're in a consistent ritual with it, but specifically when you go to do your hair care of the face, again, go in with your clean face. Better yet is do that plucking after you've showered or after you've done the problem solver, after you've done the honey mud, something that will soften up your skin and get everything all ready for you first. Then there will be ease. So clean everything up. You want it clean and you want it soft. So then go in, you pluck the hair, whatever you need to do. If you did the problem solver beforehand, follow up with just the jasmine garden. And the youth dew after is wonderful. If you're having any pain, do a blend of the youth dew and the blue cocoon. The youth dew is really wonderful for the actual like red spot and the inflammation itself, and to take away the part of it that feels like a breakout, and then the part of it that feels like pain and injury. The blue cocoon is really, really useful for there. You can also do a spot treat, and you can see this in the Problem Solver Deep Dive Live as well. There's lots of tips in there, and I show you, I demonstrate all the methods for spot treating. So using the Problem Solver blended with either the youth dew or the blue cocoon, depending on the kind of flare-up that's happening. And again, this can be from pulling a chin hair kind of flare-up. It could be from just having an acne breakout. And I would apply this to certain kinds of dermatitis and rosacea and eczema breakouts too, but very much depends on the specifics of that. So either reach out to us directly or go rewatch the Problem Solver Deep Dive Lives. Lots of help in there on that. Rosacea, so many of you with rosacea and redness and lots of self-consciousness around that. Oh, I read a statistic that just like hurt my heart. And it was either on rosacea or eczema, and they often go hand in hand. But it was a study of people who, more than half in this study said that they would give up a year of their life to reduce the redness in their skin. And I hear it. I hear it because I've been there, and when my skin in my 20s was at its worst, I would have given up several, easily, to feel comfortable walking around in the world with the skin that I was in. So, no judgment. I feel you, I hear you, and I'm here for you. There's also a rosacea, eczema, and dermatitis step-by-step ritual at Lindstrom.com as well. And with those conditions in specific, because they're medical and because they're so individual and so personal and affected by so many things, please do work with us directly, and also alongside the care of your doctor if you have one. So much redness and dryness, and so much redness and dryness mixed with breakouts. And especially in the winter, this is really normal because the breakouts don't just stop just because it got colder or drier. These things, they move through, they just cycle. And I don't know, most of us don't have perfect skin. We just don't. Most people on the planet You could fill any room. That was the lineup of all the things I meant to demonstrate today and didn't. Yeah. Just into the sink. Oh, I lost my train of thought. But you know what I tipped over? This is actually a good reminder. Do you remember, and maybe if you haven't watched the Jasmine Garden Deep Dive Live, go do that. There's some fun things in there, but what I showed you how to make, just gonna dribble it around, is, do you remember these? Jasmine Garden Treatment Cubes. Aren't they beautiful? So if you haven't tried the Jasmine Garden before, you'll be delighted to see. It's this beautiful golden cube, and I have these fun little things. These I use to pack my kids' lunch, and they get little like snacks and sauces and stuff in there, but you can just pour a little of the Jasmine Garden in and freeze it. And these treatment cubes can feel especially delicious massaged into skin or post-treatment, or held over especially spots like this that are still active and open. This can feel really, really beautiful to just hold on there, and it'll bring down the redness and the pain. That felt too good not to do for real, and we're at the end, so maybe I'll just do this for a moment with all of you. I want to say that there's like 4 more pages of questions that I didn't even come close to getting to. Not to mention all that you so wonderfully dropped in this conversation today. And I'm sorry I couldn't get to everything. There's just so much. But I thank you for being here with me as we talk about these things, and as you help me figure out how I want to talk about them with you, because I want to keep showing up here. I want to keep showing up here every week with you, and I also want to keep showing up here in all kinds of ways. I want us to have different digital tools. I want us to find spaces where we can look at each other, where I can see you too, and later more things in person where I can really see your faces, maybe even touch your faces. So this is really just the beginning, and I'm trying on new things. I'm trying on new ways of thinking about all of this and thinking about how to share with you. And it's a little bit scary. And I'm just trusting. I'm trusting that all of my people are here, and I'm trusting that my people who aren't here yet will be, and that I'm meeting everyone that I'm supposed to be meeting, and you're sharing us with all of the people that you think should know about us, because magical, wonderful things happen when we come together and we share our stories and we share our experiences, and we sit in love and tenderness with each other, even when it's hard, even when it's scary, even when we feel silly, even when we don't know what to say, even when we're just babbling on about who knows what for an hour, into my own face here. I'm going to finish with the used to, because for breakouts, the problem solver, the used to, the Jasmine Garden, those 3, they are my breakout arsenal. If you've got pain and sensitivity, add the blue cocoon. If you're dry, add the pendulum potion, the honey mud. Everybody needs the problem solver. Everybody needs the blue cocoon. Everybody needs the Jasmine Garden. All of the other ones, you can mix them in, find your rhythm, reach out to us for help. For all of you who are just wondering how to go out in the world and show your faces as they are, come here first. Come here first to you. Just come here every day, every morning, every night. Put your hands on your sweet, precious, tender heart. Put your hands on your skin and feel the life that's inside of it. If you can't massage your face because it's too tender, then don't massage your chest, massage your neck, massage your ears. This is where the Happy Galaxy comes in. Get some beautiful blue into your hands, massage it into chest, into hands, scalp. Find the touch that feels good. Find the way to make it pleasurable. Add the snacks, add the songs, add the friend that you call. Bring this into your life. Because when that happens, when it becomes, I want to show up because it feels so delicious, like the best back scratch, instead of just the mundane, I'm getting this done. When you can show up and move into the pleasure of it, move into the connection of it, well, then you want to. And you want to then go out in the world and have your skin accessible so that it can be touched and loved. And when you do that, you are so beautiful. You're so beautiful because you'll walk into a room with your eyes open and your skin glowing, the real glow. Even if it's red underneath, even if it's bumpy underneath, even if all your lines and wrinkles are going, yeah, look at me. It's all right. It's just right. And I will show up every day and tell myself that until I believe it on the hardest of days. Because I believe it on the easy ones, and I believe it when I'm talking to you. Thank you. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for being here with you. Always a delight. I will see you soon. Tell me what we should talk about. I love you. Goodbye.